Good evening. I'm not quite used to not singing a psalm before each one. I still feel like we need to. Maybe we can come up with a way to sing the Proverbs. But this is a transition, as I said last week. Last week was really the first in this Sunday evening series. I have no idea how long we're going to do this, probably a good while. We're establishing some groundwork at the beginning, looking, really the first 9 chapters of the Proverbs are, they're spoken, it's a dad talking to his son. And I'll do a separate lesson on this, but just a very brief point is, this is the way dads need to be talking to their sons. This is the way, grandparents should be talking to their grandsons. You look at the kinds of materials, the information that was being passed on, it was really valuable. It was dealing with the deeper things. It was dealing with the issues that the dad knew that his son would one day encounter. And you see that all through here. And so that's just a brief admonition here at the beginning. Let's go back to last week, so this is all I've got tonight. I've just got this slide. I would like for you to open in your Bibles, and you can join me there in Proverbs chapter 1. In Proverbs chapter 1, we saw last week, what is the beginning of wisdom? What is the beginning of all knowledge? The fear of the Lord. So, the fear of the Lord. This is Proverbs 1 and verse 7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. It's the beginning of knowledge. This is the groundwork for knowledge. And so then a dad is talking to his son. He says, "Hear, my son, your father's instruction, and forsake not your mother's teaching." It all begins with this. Good instruction, good teaching, good wisdom, all begins with the fear of the Lord. Now, tonight we're going to look at verses 20 to 33 of this chapter. Proverbs 1, 20 to 33. So I want to read through it, and then I'm just going to give a very simple and straightforward exposition for you. Proverbs chapter 1, beginning in verse 20, it says, "Wisdom cries aloud in the street. In the markets she raises her voice. At the head of the noisy streets she cries out. At the entrance of the city gates she speaks." And this is what she says. Wisdom, there's this lady, and in the Proverbs there is, to put it crudely, there's lady wisdom and there's lady whoredom. Those are the two ways that it's presented that way. And a dad's telling his boy, you can listen to one or the other. Those are the options. That's it. It's lady wisdom or it's lady whoredom. That's it. And he says, later he's going to say, it was at the foundation of the world that wisdom was laid. Wisdom is what ordered this world. Wisdom is what laid the four corners of the earth. Wisdom is what made all of the different things that we see. And so if we want to be in keeping with our making, we need to listen to Lady Wisdom. But she's crying out, wisdom. And she says, "How long, O simple ones, will you love being simple? How long will scoffers delight in their scoffing and fools hate knowledge? If you turn at my reproof, behold, I will pour out my spirit to you. I will make my words known to you. Because I've called and you refuse to listen, have stretched out my hand and no one has heeded, because you have ignored all my counsel and would have none of my reproof, I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when terror strikes you. When terror strikes you like a storm and your calamity comes like a whirlwind, when distress and anguish come upon you, then they will call upon me, but I will not answer." This is wisdom speaking. Wisdom is just that. It's wisdom. It's the truth that the world is ordered by. It's the truth that the world is operated by. And if you embrace it, things are really good. Life goes well. It doesn't mean there aren't any issues, but things will be good in the interim and in the long run. But if you reject it, things will be bad. It's just the way that the world is made. And wisdom is such that if a person kicks against wisdom, if a person rejects wisdom, wisdom is also going to reveal that. Wisdom is going to show, oh, do you see what your actions did? Do you see where they put you? Wisdom will call it out from both sides. before you made a decision and after you made a decision. Wisdom is going to be consistent through the whole thing. And some will call upon me, and I will not answer. They will seek me diligently, but will not find me, because they hated knowledge, and notice this, and did not choose the fear of the Lord. What is the foundation of wisdom? The fear of the Lord. Some will cry out because some, in fact many, do not choose that. They would have none of my counsel. They despised all my reproof. Therefore they shall eat the fruit of their way and have their fill of their own devices. For the simple are killed by their turning away, and the complacency of fools destroys them. But whoever listens to me will dwell secure and will be at ease without dread of disaster. So this is the text, and I want to point out some things to you. The first thing that I want you to see is that wisdom concerns everyday life. Wisdom concerns the day-by-day, moment-by-moment things that we would maybe sometimes say are mundane. You know, there was a time, and I think that time even is now, where truths are generally given in abstractions. They're given in these general terms. They're given in disconnected ways. They're just out there somewhere. The thing about the Proverbs is the Proverbs are earthy. And I don't mean they are earthly. You remember James talks about wisdom that is from the earth. It's earthly, unspiritual, demonic. It comes from here. No, what I mean is the Proverbs are earthy in that they come down to the ground. I think this is one of the most important things for the church in 2024 to understand, is that God, He gives actual substantive direction concerning everyday things, like how to use our tongue, how to talk, what to do with our money, what kind of mate to pick. There are young people in here that have not found their husband or wife yet, and perhaps are desiring that, are looking for that. Maybe that's going to come at some point. The Proverbs give direction on how to do that, how to pick, what should you look for. The Proverbs deal with everyday things. Now, where am I getting that from the text? Where is wisdom calling out to the people? Wisdom, it says in verse 20, cries aloud in the street. She's in the street. So wisdom is either there in traffic where there's commuting going on, or wisdom is there in the street where the marketplaces are, there's commerce happening, there's business happening. So wisdom is present. God's wisdom is concerned with what's going on when you're commuting to work. God's wisdom is concerned with what's going on when you're shopping at the grocery store. And where else does it say that wisdom is crying out? Wisdom is crying out at the entrance of the city gates. At the entrance of the city gates, she speaks. What were the city gates? What happened at the city gates in ancient days? This is where decisions were made. This is where, for lack of a better term, legislation happened. Judgments were made. Judges would sit there at the entrances. Wisdom is needed in city council meetings. Do you think so? I do think so. I think so. I think God is God of all the world. Jesus is Lord of heaven and earth. All authority in heaven and on earth belongs to Jesus. And so wisdom should be present in these places. In fact, wisdom is saying, I'm there. I am present. I have a voice to call out to you when you're in traffic, when you're in grocery stores, when you're doing busy life, and when you're in the places where for society decisions are being made. It's either that the ones making the decisions will make the decisions in wisdom, or they will make the decisions in folly. If the choices are made in wisdom, the people will flourish. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. Amen? Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. But if a nation rejects the Lord, what happens to that nation and what happens to those people? So wisdom is present in all of these things. And what I want us to see from this chapter is that the foundational point that he's getting at here in Proverbs chapter 1, because, I've scoured through this looking for just little insights. What specific wisdom is he talking about here? The only specific, precise point of wisdom that's been given thus far is fear the Lord. That's it. Now, as time goes on, the Proverbs are going to give wisdom for sexual relationships, wisdom for finances, wisdom for how to deal with, people with loans, wisdom. So many specific, particular things. Wisdom when somebody's got a problem with you, wisdom when you're in trouble with the law. It's going to get to all of that, but right now, it's just fear the Lord, and this tells me that if we're to be wise in traffic, and if we're to be wise in grocery stores, and those are the two things that it specifically mentions here, marketplaces, streets. This is just our daily life. This isn't church. This is just when you're out there, you're living your life, you're doing your life. It's a Saturday, whatever. What's needed in that moment is the fear of the Lord. In everything. The wisdom of God concerns absolutely everything that we do. This is why the New Testament could say, whatever you put your hands to do, do it with all of your might as though you're working for the Lord. Whatever you do in word or deed, do every single thing in the name of the Lord. If somebody's coming over for dinner, we're going to make that dinner in the name of the Lord. I heard someone one time mocking this. They said, God isn't concerned with everything. He's only concerned with, spiritual things. They said, and then they gave this counterpoint. They said, God's not concerned with, what you cook. And I don't think that's true. You read in the New Testament, you read in the book of Corinthians, you read in the book of Romans. Did God have something to say at times about the things that people were eating? What if you bought barbecue from the idolatrous market? What did he say? He said, if you're going to eat it and raise no question concerning conscience. Just eat it. It's barbecue. It's good stuff. But if you find out that this was sacrificed to an idol, don't eat it, because it could be a problem for your weaker brother. It could be a problem for your neighbor who had you over for dinner. He might think, oh, look, this Christian's participating in this sacrificial, idolatrous system with me. And there he says, yeah, God actually has something to say about food. Later in the Proverbs, he even talks about honey. He says, if you find honey, eat a little bit of it, because it is good. It's from God. But he says, but don't eat too much, lest you have your fill of it and become sick. The Proverbs actually tell you to eat honey, but not eat too much honey. And this is not speaking of some spiritual thing. It's just telling you, if you find honey, eat some, don't eat too much. Eat something sweet. Don't let your whole lifestyle be sweet stuff. The Proverbs deal with this. And so I want you to see that this is what we will see in the coming weeks, that the Proverbs deal with everyday life. And I think we do need instruction in these ways. And the thing that guides us is the fear of the Lord. If we're making decisions on school boards, if we're making decisions with, perhaps writing up some kind of legislation, if we're making a decision within a city council meeting, if you have some measure of influence, if you're making a decision over a corporation, maybe you're on some kind of board, maybe it's at a hospital, wherever it is, the guiding and undergirding principle for whatever we do should be the fear of the Lord. It is. Sometimes we've bought and we've believed the myth of neutral ground, as though there's this kind of middle space that exists out there in the world where neither God nor the devil exists. It's this middle ground. God's not concerned with it. It's just kind of, I don't believe in that. I think that's actually a logical fallacy. It's either approved of God, it's either what God would say that ought to be done, or it isn't. And so everything we do should be done in wisdom. And the fact is this: Wisdom is crying out. That's what it says. She's crying out. She's trying to make her voice heard. Wisdom is not hidden in some back alley. Wisdom is not some secret knowledge that this ancient guru must give you. Come with me, spend 3 years up in the mountains, and I'll teach you through these sounds that you make and these reverberations in your throat. I'll teach you what wisdom. No, wisdom is right there on the ground in busy marketplaces. It's right here. It is all around us. It's calling out to us. And it's simply saying, fear the Lord. And there's only 2 responses to her when she calls. The first response in verse 23 is to turn at her reproof. Verse 23, if you turn at my reproof, behold, I will pour out my spirit to you. I will make my words known to you. So that's one response. The other response is to ignore her. Verses 24 and verse 25. In verse 24, she says, because I've called and you refuse to listen, have stretched out my hand and no one has heeded, because you've ignored all my counsel and would have none of my reproof, I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when terror strikes you. So these are the only 2 options. And my prayer every single morning, and what I encourage you for your prayer to be every single morning, is, dear God, give me wisdom. Dear God, let me hear the voice of wisdom. Help me to have more of it. Help me to behave wisely. Every single thing I do has some kind of a ripple. It has some kind of an effect. Sometimes it's limited. Sometimes it's only momentary. Sometimes my decisions, they could echo into eternity. Sometimes the things I do, the things that I say, it might impact a soul either positively or negatively. It might be something that would keep one in or out. God help me to have wisdom. When I was about 19, 20 years old, I had an internship in western Oklahoma, and this man, it was just a time in my life where it was a pivotal moment in my life, really a turning point in my life, and I was hungry for wisdom. And I was always gravitating, really my whole adult life, I've always been this way. Miranda always says, all of my best friends are like 30 years older than me. I usually find these men that are much older because I want what they've learned. What did you learn over the course of your life? What is it? I want that wisdom. I want to learn from you. I see something in you that I want to take. In this internship that summer, I was actually writing a help system for a doctor. It was for his medical program that he had. Has nothing to do with anything ministry related, but God put me there that summer because this guy at church, one of the leading men at the church, just when I would talk to him, it was like I was being fed. I don't know how to explain it, but I was being fed on a very deep level. And so I started making appointments to come in and just ask him questions about life, this and that. I just wanted to know. And so he started mentoring me. And he would have me out, and he taught me how to do a little bit of welding, brought me out to his ranch, and was just showing me stuff. By the way, older men, that's one way to connect with the younger men. We talk about the generation gap that exists. Take those skills that you have that a lot of times the younger men don't have, and they really do want to know, and go invest in them. Say, I'll show you how to do this. Come spend some time with me. And use it as a casual time to grow them and develop them into better leaders. This is what this guy was doing. I can't say that he made me a very good welder, but I learned a lot along the way. One of the things, as I was talking to him one day, I said, everything you say is like a lesson. I mean, it's a lesson that I can take for my life. How did you learn all this? Where did this come from? I asked him this. This was 15 years ago. And he said, I wake up every single morning and I beg God for wisdom. That's what he does. Do you see how simple that is? But I resolved there and then, I'm going to do that. And I've not stopped. Dear God, give me wisdom. I want more. I can't have enough. Give me wisdom. In every particular circumstance, help me to know what I should do in this. And just generally, God, just give me more wisdom concerning life. And it will come through many modes. It will come through many people. Sometimes it's through experience. Sometimes God gives wisdom through making mistakes. Sometimes I've made the wrong decision. I've done a stupid thing, and God has shown me, learn your lesson. And you gain wisdom in that kind of way. But those are our options. We can either listen and heed and run to, or we can ignore. And if we listen, if we don't listen, I want to end on the positive note. If we don't listen, he just spells it out, or she spells it out in general terms. She says, I will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when terror strikes you. When terror strikes you like a storm, and your calamity comes like a whirlwind, when distress and anguish come upon you. If we take God's truth and throw it to the side and say, I don't want this, not interested, I'll do it my... Remember Frank Sinatra? I did it my way. Wonderful song. I love the song. It's great for making spaghetti. But you know what? I did it my way. He was real confident of that. What might one say on the other side about doing it my way? I don't think there will be anyone on the other side that will proudly say, I did it my way. God's given us wisdom. It's here. Heed it. Listen to it. Because the results are devastating when we reject it. At any level. It leads to, in even the smallest amount of folly, a little leaven leavens the whole lump. The smallest amount of folly can just pervade its way through that whole lump of dough, and it can work out in disastrous kinds of ways. So those are our options. We can either listen or we can reject it. If we don't listen, well, calamity, terror, distress, ultimately. But if you do listen, look at verse 33. If you do listen, if you choose to make the fear of the Lord the anthem of your life, if you choose to say, I am going to fear the Lord, I'm going to listen to what God has to say, and by the way, what is it that the fear of the Lord is? The fear of the Lord is the hatred of evil. The fear of the Lord is the hatred of evil. This is from last week. The fear of the Lord is a recognition of this consuming fire that is our God. It's just recognizing I'm not trifling with, I'm not dealing with someone that's on my level. I'm dealing with the eternal triune God. That's fear of the Lord. It is hatred of evil and recognizing the awesome power of God. That's what the fear of the Lord is. And if you choose to make that the anthem of your life, if you choose to say, I'm going to fear the Lord and it's going to inform my decision this way. I'm going to fear the Lord at work. I'm going to fear the Lord in how I speak to people. I'm going to fear the Lord in how I spread information about people. I'm going to fear the Lord in how I talk to my wife. I'm going to fear the Lord in how I raise up my children because they first belong to Him. I'm going to fear the Lord in my dealings with friends. I'm going to fear the Lord when it comes to jokes that maybe I shouldn't be laughing at. I'm going to fear the Lord in the kinds of things I consume, the things I watch and the things that I listen to. I'm going to fear the Lord every day in every space. And when you do that, this is what she says in verse 33, whoever listens to me will dwell secure and will be at ease without dread of disaster. You don't have to wake up afraid. You don't have to think of what your future will be. When you're walking with the Lord, you're not thinking what's to come tomorrow. You just know, I dwell securely. I'm at ease. I am taken care of. And so my encouragement to you is to bring the fear of the Lord into everything. Let it inform you. It's an instructor. Fear is not the entirety of our faith. It's not. There are so many countless other elements to what this faith is, but fear is a foundational one. It is the foundational one. It is the one that, look, let me just put it this way. If there was no such thing as hell, if God said, Daniel, at the end of this life, there's not going to be hell for anybody, would anybody really and truly and honestly continue to walk righteously? No. We may, within a certain cultural context, we may stay within some boundaries that are expected by the people around us, maybe some values our parents gave us, but it certainly wouldn't be this fine and refined standard given to us by God. Why would we? Paul said, if there's no resurrection, if there is nothing after this, let us eat and let us drink, for tomorrow we die. Paul even said it. The fear of the Lord, it informs a lot. It's a good thing to be mindful of. Jesus, our Savior, talked about hell more than anyone else. I know you've heard this, but he really actually did. You read in the New Testament, Jesus talked about a real place called hell that he said some will be forever in hellfire forever. It's a real place. It exists, and there are many going there. The fear of the Lord drives me far from that. Let the fear of the Lord guide you. God is also a God of all grace. And as we journey together, and as we fail at many points in our wisdom and our pursuit of wisdom, He's not an angry father waiting to hit us down. He's not. He's instructive, He's patient, He's gentle, He keeps pushing us forward to glory. We've got a good God, and we're going somewhere good. But in the meantime, during these few days, let us live wisely. If you have any need at all, you can let it be known while we stand and while we sing.